Mayan is a high school student with a strange talent of seeing death as numbers. It comes with the phenomenon that the closer a person is to death, the higher the number. After this realization, Mayan decides that the world is better without her in it. She tries to end her life by jumping to her death, but at the peak of impact, she is brought back from the clutches of death. She is confronted by a strange man at the rooftop, who to her surprise, doesn't possess death numbers like the others. He introduces himself as Death, also having special powers and skills to perceive when a person is near their end. Even greater powers than Mayan. He makes an offer to grant her death wish so he can take her soul, but is shocked to find out that his sword is absorbed after stabbing Mayan. He wonders who and what the girl was, to be able to disintegrate his sword despite looking vulnerable. A professor arrives and calls them back in for the next classes, and Death assumes that the reason humans can see him was because his sword was absorbed. After he gets an uneasy feeling, he informs her of his return to get his sword and disappears. Mayan finds out the professor hadn't seen Death, and she ushers her inside to study while she wonders if he would truly be back. In the demon world, when Zhao, the god of death, takes permission from his father to do some confidential work in the human world for 6 months, he arrives at school the next day as a new transfer student. Everyone is in awe at his beauty and domineering nature. They also wonder why he chooses to take a seat next to her. Zhao replaces Mayan's seat partner, who had also been a bully to her, and soon, lectures are in full swing. Mayan wonders what the strange man's plans were that made Death himself become her classmate. Zhao is bombarded with comments from other girls in the class, who have identified Mayan as a weirdo because she can't keep normal conversations and interactions. It is revealed that any person Mayan touches or comes in contact with is driven closer to death. She realizes the only person she can touch is Zhao because he is the only one without a death number as the god of death. While he pulls her away with him from class, she senses a specific death number 0 from a student, and this makes her anxious. It is revealed that the student with the death number 0 has in his possession Mayan's jotter full of her attempted suicide. Zhao pulls Mayan to the school garden where she questions his motives for becoming a student so he could kill her. He chokes her by the throat and responds, asking her why she was so eager to die despite being immune to death. He tells her that her death wish would be possible if only she remains obedient to him. Zhao arrives at Mayan's house and is uncomfortable with the small room he described as shabby. While he observes the place, his aura rolls a little flower vase over and it breaks. Mayan picks up one of its shards, and in an attempt to express herself, the shard pierces her palm and she begins bleeding profusely. When the wound doesn't heal like it is supposed to, she wonders if she can attain death by staying close to Zhao. One day, while Mayan waits for the rain to stop, she reads a note from a stranger, who identifies her as the girl who feeds the cat. Unknown to her, a basketball was launched directly at her position, but Yulai arrives in time and intercepts it with his umbrella. She looks up and finds out it's the boy with death number 0. Just when he is about to reveal himself as the sender of the note in her hand, she throws it into the trash, declines his gesture to give her an umbrella, and declares her need to be left alone. Lai is left shocked at how bad his encounter with Mayan went. 1 week later, iron plates being carried by a professor fall over Mayan's head. He apologizes and asks her to get treated at the infirmary. Mayan, whose goal is to attain death, recalls that dangerous accidents like previously had been happening all week, along with unhealed injuries and pain, yet she isn't dead. Mayan ignores the professor's advice and assists some students to carry a box, but instead, they lock her in the dark room, mocking her for always being alone before leaving. She sits when she begins feeling drowsy and weak, also considering it's a result of the recurrent accidents from the past week, while Zhao lingers outside the room, waiting for her to cry out in pain or shed a tear. Lai overhears the girl's conversation, and after hearing how fatal Mayan's condition is, rushes to save her. He arrives at the storage room where she's locked but is blocked by Zhao. After Lai confronts Zhao about his feigned ignorance over the issue, he kicks the door open and sees Mayan bleeding. She's too weak to move, but she faintly sees Lai and instead requests help from Zhao. Zhao recounts his past encounters with humans and how they always pleaded to be saved from death or verbally abused it. One thing was certain: whoever he came in contact with was certainly going to die. Mayan awakens to find Zhao passed out on a chair. She also recalls a memory from earlier, telling Zhao not to take her to the infirmary, which he didn't intend to do. She dizzily walks over to him but falls unconscious on him before she gets close. Zhao figures it's a fever making her drowsy, and while she lays on his legs, there's an intense moment of stares between them. Seeing her in this fragile state makes Zhao wonder how she absorbed his sword, and of course, Mayan is flustered by his stare. She withdraws from him and falls unconscious again. Before Zhao Ai leaves, he announces that affection and care are poison for him who comes from hell. Mayan awakens later after a terrible nightmare that only paints the fact that she can't escape death, who has also come to her in the form of Zhao Ai. She is about to retreat from the dining room when he suddenly intercepts her, with his large figure hovering over her small one, and this makes Mayan flustered. After she rejects his offer to join him for dinner, Zhao Ai asks her the jaw-dropping question of why she's not afraid to die yet afraid to touch others. At school, Lai is zoned out often and worries about Mayan's well-being. His teammate makes inquiries to know if it's his new relationship that makes him absent-minded, and he responds that all he does is take care of a cat. That evening, when he goes to feed the cat, he sees a tape crossed over its nose. Hence, it has been struggling to breathe. Lai wondered who would do such a horrible deed and decided to find out. That night he waits till the culprit appears to strike again. She reveals that she did it to teach Mayan a lesson because she's bad luck and Mayan cared for the cat. Before he leaves, he warns her to steer off Mayan and the cat. The next morning, Zhao Ai and Mayan arrive at the school together with all eyes on them. Everyone is wondering what the new hot transfer student is doing with the weird autistic girl when Lai approaches them and offers to become friends with Mayan. She blatantly declines his request, and the news soon spreads like wildfire in school. In class, Mayan is wondering if she made the right choice by rejecting him when Zhao Ai interrupts her thoughts. When Mayan goes for lunch at the cafeteria, everyone refuses to eat next to her after she rejects Lai. After a sudden scream from a crime scene, the cafeteria drifts into turmoil and havoc. A man has a girl at knife point over a debt by her father. The man takes Mayan hostage instead after she offers to take the girl's place, who is sent to call her father. The armed man also threatens to slit Mayan's throat alongside his if the police are contacted. Lai arrives at the scene to save Mayan but is ordered not to take another step by the armed man. Another man dressed in black arrives at the scene and reveals to Lai that he should calm down because the police are on their way. When the police sirens begin blaring, the armed man goes berserk. Mayan holds onto him, now certain she wants to save Lai from the trouble she unknowingly brought him into. When the robber's death number increased, he passed out and the police confiscated his body. She acts indifferent towards Lai after the whole scene and later that day goes to the station to give her statement. When she returns from the station, Zhao Ai arrives and asks for a favor from her. She is reluctant at first until he slides behind her and whispers to her. In one swift move, he levitates with her to the sky and they land on the top of a high mountain. Mayan is admiring the beautiful scenery when Zhao Ai reveals to her that the reason he brought her is that he found a way to withdraw his sword from her. As the ritual commences, Zhao Ai tells Mayan to take off her clothes so the spell works better. Zoe smirks when he notices Mayan is flustered at his request and the sight of his exposed body. She is relieved when he informs her that she doesn't have to take off all her clothes. The ritual begins and Mayan's body floats in thin air while Zoe withdraws his sword slowly. Unfortunately, the ritual is unsuccessful and the sword remains in Mayan. Zoe worries if the sword rejected him or if it was Mayan. Meanwhile, the girl who dislikes Mayan, after hearing a conversation between other girls, cooks up a conspiracy against Mayan. While Mayan walks home that evening, Lai accompanies her. He offers to go feed the cat together when they are ambushed by goons sent by Mayan's nemesis. In an attempt to defend and protect Mayan, Lai reaches for the knife with the leader of the goons, but instead, he is punched into a corner. To protect Mayan, he rampages for the leader again, which lands him being ambushed on multiple sides till Mayan finally surrenders. Just when they are about to assault her, Zoe's demeaning aura fills the atmosphere, cursing out how much he despises humans. He single-handedly beats up the thugs who refer to him as the Grim Reaper. When Zoe snaps back to reality, he questions his actions, the sudden anger he felt and why he intervened. Before Mayan speaks to him, he disappears. Mayan returns to Lai's aid and is heartbroken to see his death number rise from 0 to 10. She breaks down in tears and Lai, hurt to see her in that state, hugs her. Mayan recognizes the situation almost immediately and breaks contact, but is shocked to see his number return to 0. After the incident, Mayan worries that Lai's 0 probability of death would be a burden on her. Zoe wonders what made him lose his temper like he did that day while Lai still tries to get Mayan's attention. After school, Lai searches for Mayan at the spot where she feeds the cat but is unable to find her. When he's about to leave, Mayan's jotter for her attempted suicide falls from his pocket. He promises not to give up on her despite others' opinions and continues searching for her. When he finally catches a glimpse of her walking alone, he is about to approach her when Zoe interrupts him and warns him to stay away from Mayan. That was the end of The Deathless Part 2. Thank you for watching. If you want me to make Part 2, then please comment down below. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get our channel's posts as soon as they get published.